Cantrip.
Welcome back. We're is there a oh okay, the echo just went away. Cool. I thought I was getting lightheaded and disappearing into my own little private space there. Being the excessively original people that we are, we're going to start off the second half in exactly the way that we ended the first. We're going to play some Strathspeys and reels.
Different Strathspeys and reels.
Yeah, not exactly the same ones. First one is we think a Canadian tune that John found behind his couch. Actually, before we go too much further, John introduced Zan MacLeod down there on guitar, the legendary man that he is. But I actually forgot to introduce John, now that I've just mentioned his name a couple of times. This is our man who, well, he makes a living stroking his piece of wood with a hairy thing. And he seems to be good at it.
He also plays the fiddle, too.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, John Buse.
And of course, this gentleman to stage left. On pipes, flute, whistle, singing, other pipes, guitar, really anything that he can get away with before we tie him back down. The man, the myth, the Mr. Dan Houghton.
So now that you know who he is, the tune was found behind his couch. We don't know how it got there or what it was doing or anything like that, but it was nice, so we decided to play it. It's a tune called McKinnon's Brook. And actually, it was a little bit damp back there, wasn't it?
Well, it's a good couch. I mean, I found salvation back there one night, so...
Hey, well, if that was hiding back there, God knows. Second tune is a grand Central Highland, Central Perthshire tune called Miss Stewart of Grantley. And then we move on to a couple of reels. A tune called Kissin' is the Best of All, which we can only imagine was composed by somebody who didn't have a great deal of life experience, or perhaps had more than we know about. And we'll finish off with our own little special derangement of Donald MacLeod's tune called Dr. Ross's 50th Welcome to the Argyllshire Gathering.
And you don't get snappy titles like that anymore.
You just can't get the staff.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Thanks very much. Right, we're going to slow things down a little bit here now. And I'm going to play the tune to a very old traditional Norwegian lullaby, which was traditionally sung, obviously, by mothers to infants. And the words that we no longer have, and particularly since none of us speak Norwegian, had something to do with hauling fish or gutting fish or eating fish or something, curing fish, turning fish into fish jelly, that sort of thing. Therefore the song is, or the tune is called Lukumlik, which, does anybody here actually speak Norwegian? Phew. Thank God for that. Yeah, so the tune is called Lukumlik. Yeah. The second one is a modern composition by a friend of ours up in Aberdeen. Composed this lovely little multi-tempoed tune and gave it to us, originally under the name Blackwater River, which was lovely. So we recorded it and printed up the sleeve notes, and everything was ready to go to press for not this last CD that we did, but the one before. And now he phoned us up about a day before everything was going to go out, and he says, lads, I'm sorry, I've changed the name of that tune. It's now called The Hungry Frenchman. He was persona non grata for a little while after that one. We'll finish off with a Swedish tune that we got from the group called Garmarna. It's a tune called Vitrad, which means withered. Thanks very much. Zan, I think you might have just lost something. Is it money or something? Oh, right.
Of course it's not money. He'd have been down there if it was money. Goodness.
He's a musician. Does he have any money?
Well, okay, the other silly part of the question. Thank you very much. We're going to continue in a slightly more laid-back vein with a cut from our latest CD, which, in case you hadn't noticed, is on sale in the foyer. It is only 3 shopping months till Christmas. The name of this set is Take Me to Venlow, which is also, by purest coincidence, the name of the first tune. It's a tune I wrote after a little escapade in Holland. Venlow is a little town in the northeast of Holland, close to the border with Germany. And I had a gig in a nearby town, and with a different band, I hasten to add, with a different band who I shall not name because they've been here and plan to come back. Might want you to come and see them. So the band finished the gig, and myself and a couple of bandmates decided we would quite like to avail ourselves of some of the things for which Holland is so justly famous. Windmills, holy cheese, little mice with clogs on, you know the kind of thing. It transpired that the nearest windmill shop was in Venlow, but the promoter assured us, don't worry about it, it's not far, just hop in a taxi, you'll be there in no time. So we hopped in a taxi and said, take us to Venlow. 50 minutes later, we arrived on the outskirts of Venlow, and the guy said, well, so where do you want to go? I said, well, really, anywhere in the centre, really, you know, just anywhere that places will still be open. And he looked round at us, said, open? It's Sunday night, nothing's going to be open. Everything closed at 7, and it was about 10 o'clock by this point. Are you absolutely certain? Certain, I live here. Yeah, of course, it's all shut. Venlow is closed for the night. Okay, take us back to the hotel. Another 50 minutes later, we arrived back at the hotel, parted with €80 for the trip, to discover that the hotel bar was also shut. So I wrote myself this tune as a note to self. Don't do that again. We follow that with a tune of Dan's called The Crippled Bear, written in honour of a chap who I believe is neither crippled nor a bear.
Indeed is neither.
Irony at its richest. There you go.
Thank you.
Thank you. Everybody refreshed, nice and relaxed. Good. Time to get energetic again. Set of jigs. Again, mostly from Scotland. I wrote the first one of these, nearly 10 years ago. Because, well, I wrote it within the first few months of the band actually existing, and it just occurred to us recently. Cantrip are 10. We're 10 this year. There you go. Don't we look it? We've had hard lives, what can I say?
And that's actually the sum about ages. At least emotionally, anyway.
So I wrote this tune, as I said, for the band when it first started, and probably rather unimaginatively I called it the Cantrip. Couldn't think of anything better at the time. We follow that with a tune called Cailleach an Fin, which means We Fair Kelly. That is followed by a Scots Gaelic tune, which, being as how my family is from Orkney, you know, Gaelic never actually took off there. I don't have a clue how to pronounce it. It translates as "You will come home with me." I know that much. Go on, tell them how it's actually said.
Yeah, it's actually Irish Gaelic, but not that really matters. It's
What's 20 miles between friends?
Well, yeah. It's pronounced as Inchechvitu Walilium, and like the song or the tune that precedes it, they both used to belong to songs, but the words and the tune have got separated and lost in the forest, and have not been able to find each other since, and nobody really knows where the words went. And then we finish off with two tunes at once.
Yep.
First one is again probably a song tune, but it's had other parts added onto it, as you will undoubtedly notice. It's a tune called Ian's Jig, and John very cunningly kind of intertangles a tune called Heij Migachi Chroch in Talia, which means I will return home to the cattle folds of Kintail.
There's a reason I don't try and pronounce this stuff. Do you see what it is now? Thank you.
Okay.
That set's actually available on our first CD, Silver, which a couple of people did ask about during the interval. Unfortunately, we're not allowed to, well, okay, I'll be honest, the Geneva Convention prohibits us from carrying large numbers of them across any borders, owing to some of the content, so I'm sorry, our hands are tied. You have to order it one copy at a time, please, from the record company that produced it for us, Foot Stompin' in the UK. But go look them up. They'll send you a single copy, that's all right, that's within the law. Dan is about to sing you a song. It's a Scottish song, without question. It concerns Glasgow. Don't expect any mention of the bonny, bonny banks of Loch Lomond, though. Near to Glasgow, though that may be, it's not that kind of Scottish song. It's more of what we think of as a realistic Scottish song. It's a song about life in Glasgow. And there are a couple of stories, actually, that spring to mind concerning life in Glasgow. I told one of them last night, so I'll tell the other one tonight. Does the name John Smeaton mean anything to anybody here? No? Okay. He used to be a baggage handler at Glasgow Airport. And about 3 years ago, there was an attempted terrorist attack on Glasgow Airport. I say attempted. The plan was, well, basically, there seemed to be this cell of one in Glasgow. We're not sure if Al-Qaeda had any idea this guy existed.
They would probably deny all knowledge of this.
I think
crackpot.
so, yeah. This guy hatched a plan. His plan was that he was going to load his Jeep full of propane canisters, set the Jeep on fire, and then drive it through the main doors of Glasgow Airport into the main foyer. Can anybody else spot the flaw in that plan? Well, okay, the flaw. There are several. I mean, starting with the quaint notion that anybody was going to bring religious war to Glasgow. The city where Catholics and Protestants have been quite happily setting fire to each other for 250 years aren't going to stop anytime soon. So, I mean, all of that aside, it would seem to me relatively self-evident to any right-minded human being that if you place yourself in a burning vehicle with a large amount of explosive matter, that vehicle it's going to be tricky to drive that vehicle any distance with any degree of accuracy. Our would-be terrorist found this theory borne out when, okay, the doors to the main concourse for Glasgow Airport are about 15 feet wide. He missed. Yep. Yep, from there to that wall. He missed. He piled it into a solid concrete wall next to a completely unpopulated bit of sidewalk, setting fire to absolutely nothing besides himself. Now, John Smeaton, remember John Smeaton? John Smeaton saw this happen, and his first reaction was to rush over to the burning vehicle, pull the door open, haul the terrorist out, and start knocking the stuffing out of him there on the pavement. Now, the thing is, I used to live in Glasgow. I moved back to Edinburgh and then to Kelso in the mid-90s, and 5 years in Glasgow was enough for me. But, you know, I moved from Glasgow some 8 years before this actually happened. And even at that point, had you asked me if I could name a single city in the world where I genuinely and honestly thought it was a realistic possibility that a random member of the public might punch a burning man, it would have been Glasgow. With that in mind, Dan is now going to sing you a little song.
Well, this is a song about a similar type of incident. And there's some bits of vocabulary that might help. I mean, there's some obvious pronunciational differences, like polis instead of police. There's some things as well, like a stank in Glasgow is like it's like a sort of one of those sewerage drains by on the next to the pavement type of thing. I'm trying to think if there's any other vocabulary in there that's complicated.
Well, there's the ones that we don't want them to understand, obviously. We
that's
want
true.
to come back
Right.
here.
So anyway, this will be a song about a Glasgow jakey or a Glasgow drunk taking care of most of the Glasgow police force. It's called the 37 bus. As I was on the upper deck of a 37 bus, Was seen Big Jimmy swilling wine and kicking up a fuss. Well, the driver stopped the bus right there and he belted up the stair, saying you can get the hell right off my bus if you gie us ony mair. Pal, no offence, Big Jimmy says, but if you knew what I'd been through, you wouldn't say sick things to me, nor blame a man that's fou. For I've lost a pile on the dogs today, I'll have yous for to know, for putting all me wages on a dog that wouldn't go. The driver says I dinna care, or gie a tinker's curse. You're swearing and you're bawling and disturbing all the boss. I've had just a bit enough of you, a lot more than I need. If you don't hold that big tongue of yours, I'll shove it down your head. Well, Jimmy sighed and he picked his nose and he finished off his wine. So the way that you just spoke to me has got right out of line. I've finished off 15 like you just to get into a fight. So down on your knees and beg for help, you dirty little shite. Well, at this the bus began to clear as people got off fast. With good old Glasgow chivalry, the women and children last. They gathered round and they shouted out, for they didn't like Big Jim. Come on now, drivers, sink the boot, get right stuck into him. Well, the driver smiled and he waded in, the kicking and swinging blows, until he got Jim's big square head planted on his nose. His knee came up and his fist went down, and that was the battle hour. So he jumped a few times on his head as he lay there on the floor. Well, then straightway the police, they came up to capture Jim. In threes and fours and dozens, well, he laid them out round him, until with 14 stoting him, he finally senseless sank. But I counted 40 police hats, all washed away down the stank. So if you're ever on the upper deck of a 37 bus, and you see Big Jim a swilling wine and kicking up a fuss, don't try to act the hero there and put Big Jimmy half. Just leave him for the Glasgow police. They can't afford the staff. Thank you.
It should be borne in mind that Scotland is not all Glasgow. It's just one little bit of it.
Should also be borne in mind that John Smeaton now has a worldwide lecture tour that he's on.
This is true. This is actually quite scary. He's got a worldwide lecture tour for doing basically what he probably would have been doing of a Saturday night anyway. He just got on the news for it on this occasion. But no, don't let us put you off Scotland at all. Scotland's a lovely place. Do come and visit. It's terribly nice. There are nice bits. We're just perpetually slightly mystified when people come to us and say, "Oh, Scotland, how exotic." No, it's a real place, just like anywhere else. Honestly, it's got some lovely bits. It's got some less lovely bits. Don't go to Glasgow. Come to Edinburgh. Edinburgh's nice. Don't go to Bathgate. Oh, definitely don't go to Bathgate. Bathgate's not so nice. It's not as nice as Glasgow. I had a Ceilidh gig in Glasgow last Saturday night, just the night before I came over. I was driving back towards Edinburgh and had to go through Bathgate at just about the time that the pubs were throwing out. And so I was having to wind my way fairly slowly in my car down the main street in Bathgate, and I passed this wee house, and there was a chap leaning in the doorway of the house like this, peeing against the door. How charming, I thought. Why don't I live here, I thought. But the thing of it is, he finished. He then reached into his pocket, took out his keys, unlocked the door, and went in. It's a real place, just like anywhere else. Possibly a sight more real than many places that you might see in the world. We're going to carry on now with a set of tunes called Piersta. Piersta's the name of the first tune, which is Finnish for silver. Second tune in the set is one of my favourite pipe tunes of all time. It's called The Good Drying. And we finish off with a klezmer tune, a good old Jewish plate-smashing wedding reel called Onga Bucharesti. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Right. Well, we're getting to that time where we have to play that last tune that we're going to play for the night. But before we do this, there are several people that I would like to thank. First off, Phil, for taking care of us and setting up a new home for us. And Phil, we're not leaving your place, just so you know. The rent check will be in there at the beginning of next week. So a big hand to Phil. And to Andy and Arthur, who are up there up in the clouds there, have been fighting the forces of evil and chaos and making us in the wires and making us sound good. We don't sound good unless they deem it so. So a big round of applause to them. And last but not least, a great big round of applause to you lot for coming out and being a great audience and having a great time with us, and keep supporting this place and music that comes through here. It is fantastic. So a big round of applause to you. So we'll finish. Learn to speak English. We'll finish off with the final set of reels and things.
Things is right.
Yeah, lots of things. The first one of these is a tune that John here composed.
I did. I composed it out of spite, actually. It's a good way to write tunes. I recommend it. We'd spent a long time on a bus. Well, okay, has anybody here had the pleasure of spending somewhere upwards of 26 hours straight on a bus with a pipe band? You laugh. Clearly not. Yeah, we did. Once. Not to be repeated. It was a journey back from Lorient in Brittany, northwest of France. And we had to get by bus from Lorient across the channel to Dover, right the way up. Basically, pretty much the entire length of Britain back to Edinburgh. And we were on this bus with the City of Newcastle Pipe Band for more or less the entire journey. Newcastle is only about an hour and a half from Edinburgh, maybe 2 hours if the bus is going really slowly. The bus actually from between Newcastle and Edinburgh after these guys had got off might have gone really slowly. I didn't notice. It felt like 5 minutes. Just sheer joy buoyed me up. But somewhere around about hour 16, I was toying with kind of creating a designer virus that would attach itself entirely to pipe bands from Newcastle and wipe them off the face of the planet. I thought it would be more constructive and a creative solution to write a pipe tune that they were never going to be able to play. That's the first tune in this set. It's the 11/16th hour, it's called. We follow that with a tune called Piping the Fish, which was written by our ex-guitar and bouzouki player, Cami, who in his other life is a barman in Sandy Bell's pub in Edinburgh. Don't hold this against Sandy Bell's pub. It's a lovely place. The beer is average, but the sessions are great. But Cam was put in charge of organising the staff Christmas do a couple of years ago. It was going to be a vegetarian banquet. And he was under strict instruction to make sure to invite Dan so that Dan could pipe in the fish at a vegetarian banquet. I didn't know a fish was a vegetable. I suppose you could argue it depends on the fish. I don't know. But this is... I just chalk that down to learning something new every day. So, Pipe in the Fish is the second tune, and then we finish up with a tune called Hog Ties, which is written by the wonderful Phil Cunningham. And we thought that... I mean, the stories behind Phil's tunes are normally entertaining. Seldom the kind of thing you can actually tell from a stage to a family audience, but always entertaining. So we emailed him and asked him what this one was about. The answer was unutterably bland and dull. There was an old bandmate of his from Silly Wizard who used the word hogtied instead of any particular expletive. So he called the tune hog ties. There, aren't you glad you knew that? I'm not glad I know that.
Well, think of all the places where you could use that. You know, like pass the hog-tied salt, Your Highness, or
Well, granted.
nobody hog-tie with the Jesus. The list goes on.
Oh, the chicken didn't do it. Has anybody got a goat? No?
Go.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. So, would you like chips, fries, or a pickle with this last one? What do you want to do? We'll do this. We'll do this set in honor of the barbecue that we just had up at the Sky Theatre the other night. Do a set of reels here. First of these is called The Lambing Storm, which is composed by Dagger Gordon, who's both a shepherd and a mandolin player. What?
Oh, right. Sorry, I thought you were inventing a new kind of literary term, a shepherd and a gentleman, or a shepherd and a scholar, or...
Well, he is,
shepherd
he
and
is
a lover,
indeed
or
all of those things, and indeed a good judge of a bad musician.
That's entirely possible.
And is a musician himself. I think he plays mandolin or something like that. Anyway, he composed this tune called The Lambing Storm, which is about a storm during lambing season and not about raining sheep. Although that does happen. You laugh. Second tune is called The Splendid Isolation by the great Brendan McGlinchey. And then the Sky Barbecue by Alistair Fraser. And we were sort of debating whether it was indeed composed about the barbecue that we had up at the Sky Theatre, or perhaps a barbecue that occurred on the Isle of Skye, or perhaps some kind of sarcastic commentary on the socio-political history of that island over the last 300 years. And then we'll finish off with what is, in my firm but humble opinion, the sexiest, most pelvic gyrating reel ever to come out of the Highland pipe tradition. It's a tune called Delina Mackay. Thanks very much. It has been a pleasure. We'll see you out front there.